Today, I'm excited to have with us a multiple Search Personality of the Year winner, Search Marketer of the Year winner, co-author of The Art of SEO, the founder of Net10X, which is right around the corner here in Boston on May 2nd, 2019, the former founder and CEO of Stone Temple, and now the general manager of Proficient Digital, Eric Enga. Hi, Eric. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for having me today.
All right. And this is the Marketing O'Clock show, Off the Clock, where we talk about some of the journey into digital marketing and really how you got to where you are today. So first off, one thing I love asking people is, what's one job or gig that you've had that most people don't know about?
Oh, gosh. Well, the funny thing about me is that with the acquisition of Stone Temple by Proficient became the fourth job in my life. And for somebody who's approaching what most people would consider retirement age, that's a remarkably small number. But when I started, I was a hardware designer for a company called Megapulse, and was actually designing PCB boards to be used in Loran-C transmitters.
Wow. That sounds very different than what you're doing today.
Just a touch, yes. But actually, it was in that job that I morphed into actually becoming a programmer, and then I was that for a number of years, and then I made the mistake of slipping into marketing-oriented careers.
Okay, and then here's a follow-up question to that. Have you ever been I know that you've had a foosball career, and have you ever received any prize money from playing foosball?
Oh, well, sure. So I didn't really consider that a career, although I was a ranked pro on the national foosball circuit. And in 1984, won a world championship in one event. In 1985, won the national championship in the U.S. here for the same event. And yes, there was prize money involved, and traveling to cities and doing stuff to compete in different events and see how you could do. So that is, well, let's put it this way. I do still have the current tour table in my basement at home. I don't actually use it very often. I haven't played in a tournament in over 20 years. But if you need to win a bar bet tonight, we can still do that for you.
All right. That's like my dream job, to get paid playing foosball there. And follow-up question, do you spin?
Oh, of course not.
I'm just joking. That's the hack thing that we always laugh about here in the office. So that's phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal. All right. So obviously you're now a highly acclaimed marketing author, entrepreneur, thought leader. How did you make that step from engineering, as you had mentioned, into the world of marketing?
Well, I mean, so the first thing that happened really is I was hopefully a pretty good engineer, and that caused the company I was working for at the time, when this transition happened, a company called Phoenix Technologies, to make the mistake of, I'm going to use the word mistake a lot here today, of putting me in front of customers, and then they learned that I could talk to them and explain things, and so there's a lot of people are enamored of and put a premium on engineers who can talk sensibly to regular human beings. So I ended up getting pulled into more and more sales calls, and that eventually led to me getting in some marketing-oriented roles at Phoenix. And my first gig as a general manager of a business unit in a public company, all the way back in the late 80s. So that's kind of how it happened, So it was an interesting transition for sure.
Okay, and so what was the actual first job? Did you have a job title? What was your first actual position in the digital marketing space?
So the way that happened is in 1997, we're going back a ways, I left Phoenix Technologies, the company I'd worked at for a decade, and I actually went out and I was doing business development consulting for people. not anything to do with digital marketing yet. And I did that for a number of years. But in 2002, a good friend of mine brought me in as a consultant, actually to do biz dev consulting for a business he had that was running a website called bestprices.com that was selling DVDs online. That was the business. And he was really asking me to go do business development deals to hawk, DVDs. But after about 30 or 60 days, I kind of called him up. I said, Steve, I think what we ought to try to do is see if we can figure out how to get traffic from search engines. And like a good CEO, he turned around and said to me, Eric, that's a wonderful idea. Go do it. So a year later, we were doing $3 million a year in sales from search. And I kind of went, I kind of scratched my head and said, maybe I ought to do more of this.
Yeah.
And that's how I started getting seriously into it.
I'll say. So was that transition, I guess, from really having that engineering mind tough to go from being an engineer into, search engine optimization?
Well, actually, having a technical background is extremely handy in search engine optimization. And because there are a lot of technical aspects to it. And so I don't think it was really that difficult, but also for me, just as a person, I actually like the fact that, digital marketing careers, in particular ones with a strong component of SEO, one moment I could be, this intense geek, and the next moment I could be a wild-eyed marketer. And for me, that switching back and forth really works well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And was there anything that helped you, that you think really helped you as an engineer get to that next, I guess why you were seen as having that ability to speak from the marketing standpoint? Was there something that you stood out from you versus the other engineers at the company at that time?
So I think the big thing is, actually, here's a good way to explain it. In my family, I'm literally the only person that wasn't a university professor. Mm-hmm. So the culture in my family of being able to stand up in front of a room of people or even an individual person and explain to them how something worked and why it worked that way and what to do about it was very much bred into me during my entire upbringing. I was just used to the idea that whenever you talked about something that the other person didn't understand it, that there were certain things that you do to, help them understand. And part of the big juice, Greg, really is, from a teaching perspective, it isn't just knowing the material, but it's knowing, especially when you have multiple people in the room in front of you, it's like where person A is stuck on this point, and that's what they're not getting, but person B is stuck on something different, and person C on yet a third different thing, and just being able to recognize where people are getting hung up in understanding what you're trying to explain, and then taking them one by one and getting them there. So I think that's what really helped me. I grew up in a culture of teaching. So what I might suggest to somebody in the audience, right, who probably, most people don't grow up in a house full of university professors, but you can go watch them and see what they do and learn how they handle complications and difficult explanations. Of course, take great care to find one that you have reason to believe is really good at it, because not everybody's good at it, even if it's their job. So just have to be aware of that.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I always really got from your talks, is the fact that you could tell you really knew the details, but you could communicate that and explain it in a way that people understood it. So I think that that's great advice. And you started Stone Temple, I believe, in 1997. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's its own interesting story, because yes, the company was founded in 1997. Like I said before, at the time, it was business development consulting, which, of course, that's why the heck did I pick business development consulting, given that my career prior to that was engineering? What right do I have to think that I could sell something, right? But I did. And it was only around 2002 that I began dabbling in SEO. But, really, I kind of went whole hog into SEO in 2002, I should say. But most of that was not through Stone Temple.
Okay.
I actually founded and ran, together with partners, 3 other different SEO-focused companies from 2003 to 2012. And those companies were publishing websites that did education lead gen, and all the traffic was garnered by SEO. And that actually was my primary job, split across those 3 companies for a few years. In fact, the way it worked is I founded the first one in 2003, co-founded it with one other person. And in 2000 and, see if I, no, I have my timelines wrong here. No, I think I'm right. That's right. And then in 2005, founded a second one, but sold the first one in 2006. And then in 2010, sold the second one, but had actually the year before started the third one. And with each one, we added one extra person.
Oh.
And so one of the companies had only 2 of us, one had 3, and the other had 4 of us. But gradually just kept expanding the horizon on things. But we got to this point in 2012 where I recognized that how I was thinking about SEO was really different than the people I was working with, my partners. And they wanted a much more tactical approach to SEO, and my mind had started to shift to a very strategic viewpoint on it. This is one of the tough things you got to do sometimes in your career. Sometimes you have to make the call. And what I did is I sat down with the guys and said, we're going in different directions. It's time for this to end. And we need to just, go off in our own different ways. And, we were all friends. We're still all friends. Came up with an amicable separation of everything we were doing, sold the last of the companies, basically. And it's then when my focus went full-time to Stone Temple as an SEO agency.
Okay, great. And what year was that roughly?
So that was
2012. Okay, great. And so when you did that, did any of those people stay on, or was it just you at Stone Temple Consulting at the time?
Well, so, no, none of my partners in the publishing companies ever had anything to do with Stone Temple. This is another good career thing, especially if you're an entrepreneur, to be aware of. It's really hard to share resources between different companies that have different owners.
Right.
So everything was kept 100% separate, so that there just would be no conflict except over my time. But that was manageable. If there were other shared resources, it would have been very painful to negotiate that kind of stuff all the time. But in Stone Temple, years before it became my full-time gig again, actually in 2007, I had a guy join me to help me run Stone Temple for a period of years. And with his help, we grew Stone Temple to about 12 people, even while I was still doing a lot in the publishing companies. And then once I dropped out of the publishing companies, I just went full-time Stone Temple.
Okay, great.
So
great.
Complicated story, but hey, it was fun.
That's awesome. And so Stone Temple, obviously, I mean, from a visibility standpoint, and I'd imagine a size standpoint, grew significantly up through 2018. And where were you maybe at the peak in, I guess, bodies or people that worked at Stone Temple?
Yeah, somewhere between 65 and 70 people within the company. And also, that's not counting contractors. So we had, especially with writing contractors, writers, subject matter expert writers, by the way, not just generic copywriters. Not that there's anything wrong with generic copywriters, but that's where we're. And we had as many, 100, 120 now I'm saying copywriters, subject matter expert writers working with us. Yeah.
All right.
So,
Wow.
nice.
And so that's a long time that you have still been here, in the agency side of things. And what is one of those, the keys to success? I mean, really from a technical SEO agency, you're one of the largest, if not the largest, during that time frame. What really kept you at the top of your game to continue along that path?
So a couple things are really important here. One is you have to hire people that are smarter than you. All right. I mean, they don't have to be smarter than you at everything, but you need to be hiring people that have skills that you don't, that are filling the holes. Doesn't matter who you are. You have holes in your skills gap that you need help with filling, and so that was incredibly important. So there were more and more things that I didn't have to do, personally, basically, and that was a really, really big key. And the other is, in the process of doing that, we hired a staff that was really good at running the operations of the organization, with the net result that it was easier for me to continue to spend time trying to do the vision thing, and investigating where the industry was going. And I mean, as you know, we publish lots of studies for the industry on our site, and to be kind of the driving force behind those studies and picking out what we do and going and doing the speaking and writing stuff that I do. Only possible because other people, really smart people, were doing a great job of handling deliveries for clients.
Awesome. And I was about to say that's an understatement to say that you post a lot. There's always fantastic information coming out from you and the gang over there. I mean, just yesterday there was some awesome voice search. I think it was 31 different learnings from voice search or something of that nature. But every week there's something great coming out.
Yeah, well, we tried to do that. The thing you just mentioned, I think it was actually 34.
34.
But, that's all right. Close enough. So we actually did a survey of 1,700 users to ask them about their usage of voice search. And it's the third straight year we've done it. And so we've been tracking the trends over time as to, are people getting more and more comfortable with using, voice commands, really, with their phones or smart speakers or what have you. And the trend is, yes, they are getting more and more comfortable.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And a lot of the information is really, I'd say, future focused, and even to the fact that you've gone ahead and started up a new conference as well, Next 10X. And can you tell me a little bit about how you started that up and why you did?
Yeah. I mean, the conference it's fun, but it's a tremendous amount of hard work, but it's fun for me because I'm not the one doing all the hard work to pull it together. Again, it gets down to having people who are smarter than you at certain things that are responsible for them, which is just so important. But we obviously, as a company, Stone Temple worked a lot at being making itself a brand in the industry, and that's the reason for the speaking and the publishing, the studies and the writing and everything else. And the Next 10X conference is another extension of that. The fact that we have this conference and we hold it is something that I think is really, good for us. And we get, some of our clients come, of course, and other people are the prospects, but other industry people come, and we have fantastic speakers that we bring in. Multiple people from Google, for example, and stuff like that. So fundamentally, though, it's a branding event, and I think it's worked well for us.
Okay, and then what should people expect at the Next 10X shows in general? What do you want people to think of and remember if they go and frequent the show itself? So
what we try to do with it is, first of all, it's a good, solid digital marketing conference that will have topics that are for people who have some really good initial familiarity with digital marketing. Certainly a fair amount of SEO, but there's content marketing and social media part of it. It definitely has material for the advanced folks as well. And it's a single track, and highly curated speakers. I'm involved with a lot of the speaker selection, but since we're not trying to bring in 50 speakers to our conference, we're bringing in 12. We can be a lot more selective about who it is that we bring in. So Martin Splitt from Google is a fantastic speaker. This is going to be, I believe, his debut in the United States, and I think he's going to take off because he's watch his YouTube videos. That's Martin. Last name is Splitt. Folks, check him out. He's an amazing speaker. So I'm very excited about him. Ben Morse from the Google AMP and Progressive Web App team is also going to be speaking. Ann Hanley, author of Everybody Writes and a bunch of other things, also named Content Marketer of the Year, or Content Marketing Personality of the Year by the Content Marketing Institute in 2018. She's an amazing speaker. And just a lot of other really good people, good practitioners, getting up and, telling their stories and their stuff.
Awesome. That's going to be a great event for sure. And again, that is on May 2nd, 2019 at the Colonnade Hotel in Boston. I don't know if I said Colonnade right, but check it out. Again, you can Google Next 10X and find some more information about that. And speaking of authors, you are not only a co-author of The Art of SEO, but you can be seen nearly anywhere. So you're a contributor at Forbes, Search Engine Land, Search Engine Journal, Copy Blogger, and obviously at stonetemple.com with all those articles you were talking about earlier. So my question is, A, how do you find time to do all this?
So who needs sleep?
Okay, perfect. So that gets me to number B, to be here.
Well, that's not entirely true. No, like I said, so the way the organization has been sculpted is to allow me to spend time on these things. I do want to mention, by the way, and I should have mentioned this in the beginning, is that we did get acquired by a company called Proficient Digital, or Proficient, and we're part of their Proficient Digital division. And one of the things that's cool about that is it makes us, first of all, we have a lot more services we offer than we did as Stone Temple Consulting. So even though I was the founder of Stone Temple, we now, I now think of myself as a Proficient Digital person. If I lift up my shirt here, you'll see it has a Proficient Digital logo right there.
All right, perfect.
I just want everybody to know that that's part of where we're at this point.
Cool. So you've got that team, and we're going to get to that in a minute here.
Okay.
That helps you to free you up to again, kind of push the envelope and, do what you know is important to you. So to you, how do you know when taking on a column or an article is going to be worth it? Like, what do you think, what goes through your mind when you take something on or are asked to do something?
Well, I think something's really important. Sorry, I had to hesitate while I was thinking through the best way to approach it, because I had 6 different angles on how to approach that question came to mind. But I think the best way to approach it is you really do need to have a sense of what your business is about. It could be just what your career is about if you're not a business owner. And what are the areas of focus where you want to make an impact? So if somebody came to me and asked me to write an article about paid search, I would say, yeah, no, that's not me. I'm not the guy to do that. By the way, there's other people at Proficient Digital can do that, and I can hook you up with them, and that's cool, but it's not me. And that's a very simplistic example. But we're very big. We're pushing a lot in voice right now. We're pushing a lot in the way people are doing with content, a lot with technical SEO. And when we find the right topic sets and the right audiences as well, then it becomes yeah, that makes sense. Let's see if we can find time. I can find time to take that on and do that.
All right. And so that brings me to what you had just alluded to, the fact that last summer, I believe it was July of 2018, Stone Temple was acquired by publicly traded company Perficient. So A, congrats. And then B, I know that you, again, have that, you're very meticulous with the work you do, the content you put out, the engagements that you give. Why was Perficient such a fit for you?
So, well, here's the thing, right? For those of you who are looking closely, you can see a fair amount of gray hair on this head, and if I tilt it that way, you can see the ever-growing bald spot in the middle. I'm not going to be exiting the industry, in the immediate future by any means, but the time is going to come. And so for me, I want what we created with Stone Temple to be able to live on. And for us, Perficient Digital was an organization that had a tremendous amount to offer for the company to live on and continue to employ all the great people who worked at Stone Temple prior to the acquisition and let them be a part of something that goes on. And the other thing that was, there were two other things I want to mention that were big about this for us. One of the novel parts of Stone Temple is that our revenue was generated in 100% inbound manner. I mean, we didn't even do any outbound advertising, right? I mean, it was literally you had to write us or come up to us or and by some other means ask us about becoming a client. It was the only way to do it. But the reality is with Perficient, we now have a highly professional sales force. Mm-hmm. And I've already been pulled into a lot of different meetings and situations that otherwise, we would not have gotten to. So while the inbound approach we were using was quite powerful, there's a lot of companies that, don't go to Search Engine Land or Search Engine Journal or Copyblogger or any of those other sites, or don't go to the conferences. And, how are you going to get into conversations with those folks? Our sales force is bringing us into those conversations. So that was another major piece. And the third thing that was really critical to us is we had a lot of discussions about culture prior to agreeing to the acquisition, and so you just want some where the way people think about things is something that we can all be comfortable with.
All right, that's fantastic. And you now, fast forward to today, we're about 9 months in, give or take. What would you tell people? Is there any insight you could give to somebody who may be going through the same process of being acquired or joining forces with somebody? What would you tell them?
Well, I mean, I do think it's important to do the due diligence up front and really do understand what the culture will be like after an acquisition. Everybody in the end is going to have to live with that, and you need to be comfortable that that's going to be the right kind of thing. And, don't get me wrong, no matter where you go, there will be issues that come up. That's just life, right? But are the people involved going to have the right mindset in helping you deal with those issues when you raise them? And can you get them addressed? And, if there's something that doesn't work out, are you getting a clear explanation of why that everybody can be comfortable with? That's a thing that I think a lot of people who go through an acquisition don't spend enough time on.
All right.
I mean, the rest of it's fairly straightforward. It's like, there's obviously the terms of the deal and what hooks they have in you as a person, and That's the stuff nobody forgets to pay attention to.
All right. Fair enough.
But what's that next layer of things? And that's, I think, really important to understand.
All right. And then lastly, before we get to our lightning round here, I just want to know, you've been doing this for a good solid full time, say 15 years, near 20 years. What's the biggest change that you've seen in that span of time in the digital marketing space?
I think that, well, this is a trick question almost, because I'm going to give the short answer, and then I'm going to explain why the short answer is wrong, and then I'm going to explain why it's right. So the short answer is that the SEO industry has matured and isn't always so centered on looking for the cheap, easy trick to get traffic today or tomorrow that maybe you don't really deserve. And we've seen a lot there, and more people are really getting it and understanding that you get a long way in this business with creating great content, great user experiences, helping users, and promoting yourself effectively. It's a wonderful formula. Don't forget that last part about promoting yourself effectively. And a lot of people actually do forget it. In old-fashioned SEO terms, it helps you get links, but it also helps you get other visibility in terms of bringing users to your site. So the part that's wrong about what I just said is, even though it has progressed over the past 20 years, there's still a lot of it out there with people thinking that one quick, easy hack is going to rocket their organic search traffic to unforeseen heights, and people trying to do things to game the system and play the algorithm. And it's like, oh my God, it's like, if it sounds like stupid or fantastic, then you can be quite assured that it's not true. So an example of that is, I had someone come to me and tell me that adding what are called machine readable entity ID tags to their pages would, cause your SEO to take off, like it was going to double. And it's like, okay, I get it. The idea behind these tags is it helps search engines more readily tie you to a database of information about your business, and I could see why that would have value. But the idea that it would fundamentally change your SEO it's on the surface just not right. I don't need to conduct a test to tell you that it doesn't work that way. It's just, Google's still looking for the best content and the most relevant content, et cetera. So that's the part that's still discouraging.
Okay.
But on the other hand, to get back to the part of why my original statement was right, yeah, I do see that still, but there's a lot less of it than there used to be. And there's so many people that are just doing the good hard work that helps people get sustainable gains in their organic search traffic for foreseeable future.
All right, thank you. And then that brings us to the lightning round, where I've got a couple quick questions for you, and we'll try to get some short answers because I know we're up on it here. So first off, what was the biggest mistake that you've made in your digital marketing career?
You asked that question. I'm supposed to have a lightning round answer for it.
It could be longer if you want.
Yeah. I'll list an example mistake. Large client, we had a really good success with them. Had an RFP for new work. Presumed that it was a lock for us because of the prior work. They didn't appreciate the arrogance. Lost the deal.
Okay, great. And then, what, in your opinion, is the hardest thing about running an agency? People
management is hard. And it's not because people are bad, that happens too. When you get to 50, 60 people, you're going to have bad things happen from an employee situation somewhere along the way, unfortunately. But it's a constant effort to keep their training and skills up to date, and make sure that they also have clear understanding of what a particular client's expectations are and what success in delivery looks like. And at the same time, are keeping them engaged and energized, feeling like their careers are moving forward, and that they're all getting what they want out of it. Look, the reality is any success of a team of any size is because of the team. So the energy you have to invest in the team is incredible.
Okay. Is there a book, a blog post, or a site that's had the biggest impact on you and your career?
That's such a funny question to ask me because I used to be a voracious reader, and now it's really more about things that I engage with tactically. But here's a good answer for you. Somebody I think is awesome to track. I love reading Seth Godin's daily emails. Mm-hmm. He just has a very crisp and concise way of identifying different issues and kind of cutting through the clutter and giving you a different way of thinking about things.
Okay. And then lastly, somebody new just getting into the digital marketing field, search, paid search, social content. In your opinion, what is the most important factor for them to be successful in their career?
I think a strong drive to fully understand why something is the way it is and what you do with it. You have to have constant curiosity. Maybe that's a better way to summarize it, because it's ever changing. And the rate of change has only accelerated year over year for the past decade, and I don't think it's stopped accelerating. So that just constant curiosity and desire to learn is critical.
Absolutely. And so, Eric, where can people find you next?
So, they can always find me on Twitter with the Twitter handle is @StoneTemple. So even though I'm now part of Proficient Digital, that's actually my personal Twitter handle. So that's one thing to be aware of in terms of getting a hold of me. Next conference, where are we? Oh, Next 10X will be the next conference that I know of.
May 2nd.
May 2nd in Boston. And actually Content Marketing Conference in April in Boston as well.
Okay.
So I'll be at the Content Marketing Conference.
Fantastic. And again, follow along @StoneTemple. Eric, thank you so much for coming on Marketing O'Clock, Off the Clock, and sharing that amazing journey with us. I think everybody really learned something from it. And again, you can find out more at stonetemple.com now. There's a big banner to get on over to Proficient. You can read a bunch of those articles we talked about, and again, find him on Twitter. Or probably at any marketing conference you go, you'll see Eric or somebody from his team there. And again, thank you, Eric. We will be back with another digital marketing journey here in 2 weeks. Bye.
All right, thanks, Greg. Yep.